What if I told you that a young boy from Italy would one day challenge ideas that people had believed for thousands of years? A boy who loved asking questions would become the man who changed our understanding of the universe forever. He would look into the night sky through a telescope and discover things that no human had ever seen before. But his search for truth would also make powerful people his enemies. How did an ordinary boy become one of the greatest scientists in history? This is the unbelievable and inspiring story of Galileo Galilei, the man who changed the way humanity looks at the heavens. Hello everyone, and welcome back to Universal English. Today, we bring you an inspiring story of curiosity, courage, and the search for truth. It is the story of a man who dared to ask questions that others were afraid to ask. His name was Galileo Galilei. Even after more than 400 years, people still admire his discoveries and call him the father of modern science. But his journey was not easy. He faced poverty, criticism, and even a trial that changed his life forever. This is the unbelievable and inspiring story of Galileo Galilei, the man who taught the world to look at the stars with new eyes. So sit back, relax, and travel back to Renaissance Italy as we discover how a curious boy became one of the greatest scientists in history. A child from Pisa. Our story begins on February 15, 1564. In the beautiful city of Pisa, Italy, a baby boy was born. His name was Galileo Galilei. Nobody knew that this child would one day change science forever. His father, Vincenzo Galilei, was a musician and scholar. Although the family was respected, they were not wealthy. Money was often a problem. But Galileo's father believed in education and encouraged his son to think independently. This lesson would shape Galileo's entire life. A curious mind. From an early age, Galileo loved asking questions. He wanted to understand everything around him. Why do objects fall? Why do stars shine? How does the world work? Unlike many children, he did not accept simple answers. He wanted proof. He wanted evidence. He wanted to discover the truth for himself. Sometimes his questions surprised adults. Sometimes they even annoyed people. But Galileo never stopped being curious. His mind was always searching for answers. A different dream. When Galileo became older, his father wanted him to become a doctor. At that time, doctors earned good money and were highly respected. So Galileo entered the University of Pisa to study medicine. But something unexpected happened. He became fascinated by mathematics. Numbers and geometry excited him far more than medicine. He spent more time studying mathematics than studying medicine. Eventually, he made a difficult decision. He left medical studies and chose mathematics instead. His father was disappointed. But Galileo followed his passion. And that decision changed the course of history. The curious boy from Pisa had become a young scientist who was not afraid to challenge old ideas. His love of questions and experiments was leading him toward greatness. But his biggest discoveries were still ahead. In Part 2, Galileo will build a telescope, discover the secrets of the heavens, and begin a conflict that will change his life forever. The man who discovered the secrets of the sky. A new invention changes everything. In the year 1609, Galileo heard about a new invention from the Netherlands. It was called a telescope. The device could make distant objects appear closer. Galileo had never seen one, but the idea fascinated him. Instead of waiting for someone to bring him a telescope, he decided to build one himself. He studied how lenses worked and began experimenting. After many attempts, he finally succeeded. Then he improved it, and improved it again. Soon, he had created one of the most powerful telescopes of his time. At first, people thought the telescope was only useful for looking at distant objects on Earth. But Galileo had a different idea. He decided to point it toward the sky. That simple decision would change human history forever. Galileo continued studying the night sky. Then he turned his telescope towards Saturn. What he saw confused him. The planets seemed to have strange shapes on both sides. He could not understand what he was seeing. His telescope was not powerful enough to reveal Saturn's rings clearly. But he knew that Saturn was unlike any other planet. This mystery fascinated him. Even when he could not fully explain something, he continued observing and asking questions. That was the secret of his success. He never stopped being curious. The phases of Venus. One of Galileo's greatest discoveries came when he observed the planet Venus. He noticed that Venus changed shape, much like the moon. Sometimes it appeared full. Sometimes it appeared as a crescent. These changes became known as the phases of Venus. This discovery was extremely important. Why? Because it provided strong evidence that the Earth was not the center of the universe. A Polish astronomer named Nicholas Copernicus had already suggested that the planets moved around the sun. Many people rejected his idea, but Galileo's observations supported it. The evidence was becoming impossible to ignore. Perhaps the Earth was not the center of everything after all. Warnings were given to Galileo. He was advised to be careful. For a while, he tried to avoid conflict. But he could not stop thinking about the truth. He had seen the evidence with his own eyes. How could he remain silent? Writing the dangerous book. Years later, Galileo wrote one of his most famous books. In it, he discussed different ideas about the universe and compared them. The book attracted enormous attention. Many readers supported him. Others became angry. The controversy grew rapidly. Soon, Galileo found himself in serious trouble. The scientist who had once been celebrated throughout Europe was now facing powerful opposition. The man who had revealed the secrets of the heavens was about to face the greatest challenge of his life. Galileo had changed humanity's understanding of the universe. He had discovered mountains on the moon, moons around Jupiter, and evidence that supported the idea that the Earth moves around the sun. But his search for truth had also created powerful enemies. In Part 3, we will discover Galileo's famous trial, his final years under house arrest, and the incredible legacy he left behind. Because people refused to accept it. The planets continued moving. The stars continued shining. And the Earth continued its journey around the sun. House arrest. After the trial, Galileo was not sent to prison. Instead, he was placed under house arrest. This meant that he had to remain in his home and was not free to travel. For the rest of his life, he lived under these restrictions. Many people would have given up. Many would have become bitter and angry. But Galileo was different. Even though he had lost his freedom, he had not lost his curiosity. He continued thinking. He continued writing. He continued studying science. The walls of his house could not imprison his mind. His love for knowledge remained stronger than ever. The old scientist keeps working. During his years of house arrest, Galileo returned to one of his favorite subjects, motion. He studied how objects move and fall. He carefully wrote down his ideas and calculations. These studies would later become some of the foundations of modern physics. In many ways, Galileo was preparing the path for future scientists. Years later, another great scientist named Isaac Newton would build upon Galileo's discoveries and develop the laws of motion and gravity. Without Galileo's work, the scientific revolution might have looked very different. Even in isolation, he continued changing the world. Galileo Galilei passed away at the age of 77. The world had lost one of its greatest scientific minds. At that moment, few people realized just how important his work would become. The man who had challenged ancient beliefs and changed astronomy forever was gone. But his ideas were only beginning their journey. The return of truth. After Galileo's death, his discoveries continued to spread. More scientists studied the heavens. More evidence supported his ideas. Slowly, the world began accepting what Galileo had seen centuries earlier. The Earth was not the center of the universe. The planets moved around the sun. The universe was far larger and more amazing than people had imagined. The truth that had once brought Galileo so much trouble eventually became accepted by the entire scientific community. History had proven him right. The father of modern science. Today, Galileo is often called the father of modern science. Why? Because he changed the way people search for knowledge. Before Galileo, many people accepted old ideas without question. Galileo believed something different. He believed that we should observe, experiment, and test our ideas. Evidence should guide our understanding of the world. This method became the foundation of modern science. Every scientist today follows principles that Galileo helped establish. His influence can be seen in physics, astronomy, engineering, and countless other fields.